I'm going to fly through some numbers, but these are just numbers that I put together that are very, very impressive and show you how good these teams are and how they match up. Notre Dame defense versus Ohio State offense. Notre Dame defense is number 2 in the country in points allowed per game, 14.3. Ohio State's offense is number 12 in the country in scoring, 35.8 points a game. Notre Dame's defense allows basically 300 yards a game, which is number 9. Ohio State's offense, 430 yards a game, which is 30th. Notre Dame's defense, rushing yards a game, they're 33rd ranked. They give up about 133 yards per game. Ohio State's offense on the ground averages about 163 yards per game. So obviously the running back duo for Ohio State, Travion Henderson on the left, Quinshon Judkins on the right, they have combined this year for 315 carries, 1,927 yards. So they're going to get over that 2,000 mark. And listen to how close they are on the season. Quinshon Judkins has 960 yards on the season. Travion Henderson has 967 yards. So they both are likely to go over the 1,000-yard mark against the Irish. So they have combined for about 6.1 yards a carry, 22 touchdowns. That's on the ground. Through the air, we can see what Travion Henderson can do. 75 yards to the house against Texas. One play, which flipped the momentum in that game. But 47 receptions from the both of them for 384 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's including the playoffs as well. Again, Notre Dame's defense allows 165 yards passing per game. Ohio State averages about 265 yards. Now, these are out of 134 teams. Keep that in mind. And some teams play garbage opponents, so you can really pad those stats. So these teams are both playing really, really good teams, and I show you the list of ranked opponents earlier. Now, with Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka is only 3 catches away from breaking the all-time receiving yardage receptions at Ohio State. He's tied for 7th in Ohio State history with 24 touchdowns, and he is only 94 yards away from tying, so 95 yards away from breaking Michael Jenkins' school record of 2,898 yards. But you look at that list of wide receivers: Jenkins, Egbuka, Chris Olave, David Boston, Marvin Harrison, Devin Smith, Gary Williams, Chris Carter, KJ Hill, Santonio Holmes, Garrett Wilson, Donley, Miller, Posey, Ginn. Every one of those guys was an NFL player. So there are, and most of them elite to great NFL players. So there is some serious competition going on for that. But Egbuka is really, really getting it done for the Buckeyes. Now, the trio of receivers. I told you earlier in the show, I told Joe, 1 catch for 3 yards because they were blanketing Jeremiah Smith, the freshman. But look at what these other receivers have done during the season. Egbuka, 75 for 947, 10 touchdowns. He's going to be first or second round draft pick next year. Carnell Tate in 2 years from now will be an NFL wide receiver. 50 catches for almost 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. These 3 receivers alone have combined for almost 200 catches, almost 2,900 yards and 28 touchdowns on the season. So that's just unbelievable stuff. All right, now let's go one more stat with the Notre Dame defense and Ohio State offense. Ohio State's offense, and then they have been through a lot of trouble on the offensive line. They've lost their starting center and best center in college football. Notre Dame has also lost their center for the year. Ohio State has also lost their left tackle, who will probably be a first-round pick. They have moved their left guard over, Donovan Jackson, who you could say might be the MVP of the team. And this Ohio State team is only giving up less than 1 sack per game, which is number 10 in the entire country. Notre Dame on the season has 38 sacks, about two and a half a game, which is number 30 in the country. Now, let's flip it. Let's go Notre Dame offense versus Ohio State defense. And here's where you're going to see some stark numbers for the Ohio State Buckeyes, especially. Notre Dame offense, give them a lot of credit. They beat up the teams they should have. They have scored 37 points a game, which is 6th best in the country. But look at Ohio State's defense. They are number 1 in points allowed per game, 12.2. And that's including Tennessee, Oregon, all the teams they beat in the college football playoffs. And recently Texas, that includes every team they have played this year. 12.2 points per game, number one in the country. Notre Dame's offense, yards per game, 405. That's pretty good. That's still number 52 out of all 134 teams. Ohio State's defense, 250 yards per game, number one in the country. Notre Dame's rushing yards per game, 210, or let's give them 211, which is 14th best. Ohio State's defense, rushing yards per game, let's call it 90 yards a game, number one against the rush. Notre Dame's offense passing yards per game, 192. They do not throw the ball particularly well. Ohio State's defense versus the pass, 161 yards per game, which is, again, number one in the country versus the pass. Notre Dame's offense. Here's where I think Ohio State's defense and where a big key to the game could be. Notre Dame's offense, sacks allowed per game. They only give up about 1.5 sacks per game. However, Ohio State's defense has 51 total sacks on the season, which is about 3.4 per game. That is third best in the country, which I think should be a very key issue. The Ohio State defensive line versus a little bit of a banged up Notre Dame offensive line. So the two quarterbacks are obviously going to play a key role in this game. It's going to be Will Howard's decision making versus Riley Leonard's legs. He will love to run the ball. He's going to try to, there's going to be a lot of quarterback powers, a lot of like RPO stuff. But if Ohio State can slow him down, they should cover that spread, no problem. Will Howard, again, decision making good choices. If it's not there, run the ball. But he has been throwing the ball very, very well in this college football playoff, especially. So again, college football national championship, January 20th, Monday night, 7:30. I'm guessing the kickoff will be closer to 7:50, but make sure you're ready to go for that one. Huge matchup. This doesn't happen very often, especially, two huge blue bloods like this that don't meet very often, meeting in the national title. And by the way, two northern teams going at it. So that should be awesome.